A warm welcome to us, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's roundtable discussion on international criminal justice, the African experience, and the intellectual frontiers of legal accountability. This event is organized by the ICL and J Cohort 2 ICC Internship class under the auspices of the African Center for International Criminal Justice, GIMPA. To begin with, we will take our opening prayer from Mr. Manasseh Jeswood.
Thank you very much. It's my honor to be called to give the opening prayer for this august occasion. Shall we please be seated, please? Gracious Father, we thank you, we worship and we celebrate you, Lord. There is no any other name we can call upon. We commit our people in the continuity. We ask of your presence that there's nothing we can do but Father, without your presence. Father, begin with us by your spirit, continue with us at the end. We will be careful to say thank you for this action. In Jesus' mighty name we have given thanks. Amen.
Amen.
We are grateful. So there's a joke I heard. I'll share it whilst we wait for video. So I heard that the ICC was born in Europe but was trained in Africa. So today we are going to see the good upbringing that the ICC has gotten from Africa. So we are waiting for, yes. But in the meantime,
welcome to the Gimpo Law School. Welcome to the African Center of International Criminal Justice, the ACICJ. I'm feeling a bit nostalgic because I remember when the center was established back in 2017. Actually, I remember what led to the establishment of the center, the conference that we had here at Gimpo in 2016 on the ICC in Africa. And through that, we decided to establish a center to focus on international criminal law and justice in Africa, to sort of educate people, to engage in research, advocacy on the ideals of international criminal law and justice on the continent, and to sort of curb global impunity generally.
The Africa Center for International Criminal Justice at Inaugural is a unique center whose equivalence perhaps doesn't exist in our continent. And it came out of a rather curious event. Some may call it curious because
Yeah, we live.
But a curious event that sometimes
But it's not working. No.
when he also said
Because it didn't start and they're talking and things, so you should keep people waiting on like how to cut things. So are we using a new link? So give me a new share. So share the
the
new.
contest of whether or not the international criminal justice
If the one you said give me
ICC
like. No,
was
because it's
designed to exploit Africans and to undermine the African states by hauling former heads of states for abductions of criminality before the International Criminal Court.
I'm very proud of my association with the African Center of International Criminal Justice. When we worked on creating the center, Dina Bucci and I really wanted to create a platform for open, research-based discussions on the court to understand the work on the ICC, to understand the structure, the procedures, the limitations of the court. And we wanted to make sure that African voices, the different perspectives that exist in the continent on the court, were heard. And I believe that we have been successful in doing that. And in reality, I think my expectation has been surpassed. I'm glad to see that the center has grown under the leadership of Dina Jimambudu and all those that have really worked very hard to make the center what it is today.
The ICC and the Gimpa Law School enjoy quite a long tradition of collaboration. As far back as 2016, Gimpa Law School was the first law school in Ghana to participate in the ICC Moot Court competition, and we have continued to participate in the competition since that time. In terms of the law school's collaboration with the court itself, we have had the privilege and the pleasure to invite and welcome very distinguished personalities such as the former prosecutor of the court, Madame Fatou Bensouda, the president of the ICC, as well as other key members of the ICC, including prosecutors who have come here to do several training workshops and other events with the faculty.
After the launching of the center, I had the opportunity to be invited as a trainer and guest lecturer at the Law School, and that opportunity allowed me to engage with
Just for this group,
students, legal practitioners, prosecutors, even correctional officers, and practitioners on international criminal law, international criminal justice. And I think when it all started in 2016, there was a lot of perception, wrong view on the Africa and ICC relationship, and we had to actually engage on that and discuss with the students and the audience in those trainings about what the ICC is, what it does, what is the role of African states, African communities in actually shaping international criminal justice discourse. And I think over time, those trainings allow many of those attending to understand the way we work, particularly the Office of the Prosecutor's work, the cases that came from Africa, and the fact that everything is guided by the law at the ICC.
Many years ago, before I joined GIMPA, I was a practitioner. I worked with government. I was a legal advisor in the military, where some of my roles had been to advise military commanders on international criminal law. At the time, there was an invitation that was sent to the military, for it to send personnel for training in international criminal law and justice, and I was privileged to have been chosen. That was a program that was very useful to the kind of work that I was doing back in the days.
The center I have been following has been doing wonderful work in the area of research, and indeed the Law School has mounted the whole master program on international criminal justice. Again, that demonstrates the work of the center and how it's growing before we to what it can.
The center has grown over these few years, and I'm also proud to be part of the faculty. We have developed new programs. Today, the LLM programs are running, and we do so and teach and develop a new cadre of international law experts, international criminal justice experts, who are going to take the subject forward in terms of practice and also publication and research. Currently, I am teaching an interesting course, International Criminal Tribunals from an African perspective, and also teaching advanced international human rights. It has been a wonderful experience. And I see students who are full of action, who are full of ideas, new thoughts, breaking new ground. And it's a great joy that today we have this wonderful collaboration with the International Criminal Court.
During COVID-19, when the world experienced total lockdown, the center resiliently held a series of webinars on COVID-19 related legal topics and developed numerous policy papers that positively influenced the policymakers. I have also witnessed great collaboration between the center and my home university, the University of Nairobi. This is both from the perspective of the lecturers as well as my own students. I'm therefore very grateful for this association with the center as an adjunct lecturer in international criminal law and transnational crimes, as well as scholarly seminars in international criminal law.
My teaching experience on the LLM program has been interesting. One would say that it's almost as if the world events were arranged to correspond with the topics and the subjects we had lined up for the Advanced International Law course. Students came in obviously with interesting views, and we've had a nice time thinking about how international law is changing to correspond with the times, how international law has remained static in certain other parts, almost as though other things are not happening in the world. It's been an interesting experience, and we can only hope that we receive more students who will bring more richness to the program.
GIMPA decided to start an LLM in international criminal law and justice. Immediately I heard about the program, I thought that this is where I belong, my interest is here. And so I enrolled into the program, and I can tell you that it's been a beautiful experience so far. From the courses that we have done, particularly during our first semester and now in our second semester, has enlightened me. It has brought me more understanding of the work of the International Criminal Court, the need for impunity to be stopped all over our world and all over the continent of Africa, and also the need for a better understanding when it comes to the role of the International Criminal Court in fighting impunity on the African continent.
I had just finished a one-week training session with some prosecutors from the International Criminal Court when I heard about the LLM programs in International Criminal Law and Justice that GIMPA was offering. My interest was piqued at the training program, so when I heard about the course, I decided to enroll and learn more about the tenets of international criminal justice. My journey so far has been nothing short of amazing. Apart from the knowledge that I have acquired, I have also been given the opportunity to teach some LLB students who are offering international criminal law and justice as an elective. This has also piqued my interest in the world of academia, and I hope to explore that field after a successful completion of this program.
As part of the program, I happen to have been part of the students selected for the summer school program in literates. At the International Criminal Court, we were exposed to the day-to-day activities of the courts, and also sat in the hearing of Muhammad Abdul Said Khani, who was being charged for crimes against humanity and war crimes.
It's also important to say that the fact that GIMPA Law School or the African Center for International Criminal Justice has a partnership agreement with the ICC is a very important thing. On the continent, that's the only, I would say, institution that has this kind of partnership that allows with the LLM programs students to actually travel to The Hague for summer course and to learn more by visiting the court, by interacting with those who are working at the court, whether they are prosecutors, international cooperation advisor, they are judges, or they are legal officers, or the like.
Some of the benefits from joining the GIMPA Law School has been the practical experiences I have obtained from the school. From being able to teach at the undergraduate level, which has exposed me to academia, which would have been a field I wouldn't have explored, looking at the fact that I wanted to become a professional lawyer, but now has become something I am quite keen about. I believe that this course not only exposes you to experiences about international law, but also gives you the opportunity to think critically, assist you with your advocacy skills, and also help you in your everyday life.
My experience at the GIMPA Law School has been nothing short of transformative, both academically and personally. The lectures and seminars we have at the GIMPA Law School have broadened my understanding of international criminal law. It has also helped me understand how international law strives to address some of the heinous crimes known to humanity. Being at the faculty has helped me broaden my knowledge, improve my skill set, and boost my confidence. I would highly recommend this program to anyone who is interested.
I'm delighted to have the opportunity of broadly summing up the historical facts surrounding the establishment of the ACICJ and the fact that it continues to grow and evolve. And I do hope that with the coming in of the current prosecutor, whom I will take the opportunity of welcoming to Ghana, I do hope that the center will continue to grow in leaps and bounds, and that the work of the center will continue to shape the narrative, influence the narrative around the ICC and its work concerning Africa.
Students enrolled in GIMPA, whether at the master's degree level or even at the LLB level, they get to be exposed at the early stage to international criminal law in practice. And the relationship we have with the ICC also ensures that they get that practical understanding and appreciation of how the international criminal law and justice regime works in reality. Because of our relationship with the ICC, we're able to get guest lectures from the ICC to come down to Ghana to deliver lectures, to deliver virtual lectures, and we're even privileged now to have the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court to take time out of his busy schedule to come to us here in Ghana at GIMPA to deliver this public lecture. And so I think the students of GIMPA are in a very unique position, and they stand to gain a lot from the exposure that we're giving them in this particular field of international law.
This program is organized under the auspices of the African Center on International Criminal Justice, ACICJ, and the GIMPA Law School. The center's primary goal is to facilitate discourses on Africans' role and place in advancing the cause of justice across borders and uphold the rule of law and combat impunity wherever it may happen. Let us remember that this gathering is not only an opportunity to examine the framework of international criminal justice, but also to reflect on the real-world issues facing us. It is our duty, whether as individuals or as practitioners of the law, to ensure that international criminal justice remains not just a concept. I hope that this lecture will lead all of us to think about a future where justice prevails and human rights are upheld in every corner of the world.
Today, we have the privilege of hosting the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, the ICC, Mr. Karim Assad Ahmad Khan, KC, as a keynote speaker. Mr. Khan's presence underscores the strong bond between GIMPA and the ICC, forged through years of collaboration and mutual commitment to advancing international law and justice. We are proud to acknowledge the pivotal role our institution has played in promoting international criminal law and justice in Africa over the years. As we move forward, we envision potential areas of collaboration between GIMPA and the ICC. We also recognize the importance of addressing emerging challenges such as cybercrime and its implications for international criminal law, the intersection of international criminal law and human rights, especially in our contemporary times, and the role of technology in investigating and prosecuting international crimes. I urge us all to continue working together towards a more just and accountable world. Let us harness our collective expertise and resources to promote international criminal law and justice and to create a brighter future for all.
My words are heavy, they say. But it's because as a people our dreams are heavy. Our dreams are heavier. That hopefully one day we will find those skillful hands of midwives, which we choose to call leaders, who will place us in incubators full of fantastic ideas, so that we finally would dare to begin to take our first two third steps, stumble, fall, pick ourselves up and keep walking.
The fact that Ghana, a country of stability, of security, of progress, has invested in this manner at the ACICJ, at the GIMPA Law School, is testament to Ghana's potential and also its vision for its future.
Today's lecture has been very thought-provoking, and it has not only shed light on the ICC's evolving role, but has also reminded us to be active participants and not spectators in the pursuit of criminal justice. And we must ensure that justice is indeed done, not said to be done.
Okay, so we'll take this opportunity to say a big thank you to the GIMPA Law School and also to the ACICJ for the program that they have put together, especially the elective internship program, which has given us the opportunity to teach, also explore our event organization skills, and the opportunity to visit The Hague to practicalize what we have studied in class. Without wasting much time, I'll jump straight into introducing our chairman for today's occasion, Mr. Edmond Foley. I'm sure most of us know Mr. the Globe from various countries with various institutions, 22 years at the bar, a former student of St. Augustine's College. It's actually that was not in your, it wasn't in the profile you sent me. Ask me how I found out. He is a brilliant individual and most importantly, currently the head of the legal aid scheme, which I believe is the cherry on top of the cake. Because since I've known Mr. Foley, he has always advocated for the less privileged. He's always advocating for human rights in one way or the other. So please, let's give it up for Mr. Edmond Amakwe Foley.
So good afternoon to you here, my dear friends, students. And also, I believe, an online audience. Thank you very much for inviting me to chair this inaugural and groundbreaking event. Any university worth its salt would have faculty, junior faculty and senior faculty. The purpose of a university is to churn out knowledge and stimulate debate. And so what we are doing now is what universities are supposed to do. And the interface between junior faculty being students and senior faculty being lecturers is that beautiful exchange of ideas, and of course, us forging a new path when it comes to knowledge generation. This afternoon, we are going to talk about international criminal justice, Africa's experience, and intellectual frontiers of legal accountability. I have great confidence in our panelists. I've had the privilege of teaching them, and I would only add on that this topic is opportune for us at this time. There are very many different crimes being committed on the continent, and crimes being committed against persons from this continent. Any student of international law would also have to contend with the subject of whether a regional space is also an international space. And by that I mean whether Africa as a continent can and should be isolated as a region, but also have its own international law. In fact, the African Union has a Commission on International Law. And if you trace the development of some of our institutions on the continent, such as the African Court of Justice, it is actually meant to replicate the International Court of Justice. So by all means, if you are talking about international criminal justice, you would have to contend with what is global in perhaps the ICC, but also what is internationally regional in the Malabo Protocol and the African Union. And so as we think about new conflicts on the continent, new situations that are rearing its head and giving us interesting crimes, or old crimes with interestingly new faces, I think then we are well situated to discuss intellectual frontiers. But intellectual debate should not end us only in intellectual conclusions, but practical solutions. And this is where I believe our panelists are best suited to do this. And as I tell them in class, you are being trained not only to come out and write papers, but actually become the new face of Africa's intellectual leadership, and of course, finding solutions to our numerous problems. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I humbly accept to chair this event. Please engage. In a university, there is academic freedom. Your freedom is guaranteed from the beginning, and I believe guaranteed when you leave these halls. And so let us, in a spirit of harmony, break new ground. With these words, I thank you and yield back to you, Your Honor.
Enrolling in the
LLM International Criminal Law and Justice program has been a defining chapter in my academic journey, as it has clarified the kind of professional I intend to be. That is one who transcends national borders into the global stage. Ultimately, the International Criminal Law Justice program is not only intellectually enriching, but immersive, impactful, and uniquely curated for individuals who are interested in international criminal law and justice.
The course I find to be specific, specialized, and focused. Generally, you will not find it in other institutions in our country, where you find international criminal law as a specialty for an LLM program. The course is particularly relevant to the job I do as a military officer, because it not only introduces or gives me in-depth understanding of the international humanitarian law, but it also gives me the dimension of its prosecution or its real application in our courts.
The LLM in International Criminal Law and Justice has been one of the most transformative and rewarding experiences in my legal career. The course has not only given me legal education and the opportunity to think about the justice system both domestically and globally, but has also given me the opportunity to meet amazing individuals who have become more than friends and have become family as well. I encourage everyone to join this course, not only for the academic experience, but for the opportunity to meet people who will be impactful to their life's journey.
And so for persons working in my field, the police, the prisons, and other security agencies who are particularly involved in international peace support operations, they cannot stay out of an offer like this, where they get the opportunity not only to do international criminal law, but also to understand the application and the processes that help to move that aspect of law.
The course is structured in a manner that other facets of international justice have been incorporated. For example, international humanitarian law, international human rights law, international criminal law, transnational criminal law have all been incorporated in the study. For that reason, the course offers lawyers and judges a great opportunity to learn practically the terrain of international criminal justice right here in Ghana. I am most enthused to be a student undertaking this course, and my advice is that anyone in our field, legal field, should take advantage of the opportunity and take the course. It's enlightening and insightful.
This program has helped me to be able to learn much into the international crimes such as crimes against humanity, genocide, war crimes. Why this? Because I like to handle matters that transcends regional borders or national borders, and by the study of this, I am able to get an understanding of international conventions, international treaties, which will help me in the dealing of such crimes or matters as they arise.
Partaking in this course has been very exciting and eye-opening. As a prosecutor, I'm at least abreast with the procedures in Ghana's courts. However, pursuing this course has broadened my knowledge in how prosecution is done. Currently, we are doing it theoretically. We are having a mock trial where we will have a practical feel of how prosecution is done at the ICC, and hopefully in July, I'll be embarking on the academic trip to The Hague, where I will have a hands-on experience at the procedures at the ICC courts. Pursuing this course has unlocked some potential in me, whereby I was given the opportunity to lecture the LLB students. I never knew I could lecture, and through this course, I was given the opportunity to do so. So I encourage anyone interested in pursuing international criminal law and justice to enroll at Gimpa Law School, and you won't regret it.
Again, a big thank you to the Gimpa Law School and the ACICJ. Ms. Afoli, please, just a little correction. The only college in Ghana is at the Sadel College. Now we move forward. I have the privilege of inviting our moderator, Miss Wilhelmina. We call you Mina all the time, so I'm sorry. Wilhelmina Ferguson Dineku, who is not only a member of our cohort, but also in the Ghana School of Law. She's one step away from becoming a lawyer. She holds a Master of Arts degree in International Relations and Diplomacy from GIMPA, and is also pursuing her professional legal training, as I already mentioned. She has a key interest in preserving intellectual independence and promoting meaningful dialogue. And if you know Mina, she can really dialogue in academia and hopes to transcend national borders with her work someday. Please, let's invite her. Let's give her the beautiful Mina.
Thank you, my lady, for that kind introduction. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, colleagues. Good evening, members of the faculty. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to be here to moderate this inaugural annual International Criminal Law and Justice Roundtable discussion under the theme of Africa's experience and the intellectual frontiers of legal accountability. Mr. Chairman, I'm thrilled to have you here, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. And I know it's a very busy schedule to chair this discussion. At some point, I believe that because we are still students, we might need your input. So when that need arises, I hope you wouldn't mind when I reel you into the conversation here and now, every now and again. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're here not only to recount our experiences as a continent, but we're here to explore the intellectual frontiers. To explore the intellectual frontiers and to make sure that as practitioners or students of this, we're able to reimagine it and delve into it. And I hope by the time we leave this place, we leave not only with this as another memory, but we have the echoes of the conversations ringing in the back of our heads so that we can have more productive conversations and do better when we are afforded the opportunity to do the best we can. I believe I have said enough. Without further delay, I believe it's time to acquaint you, ladies and gentlemen, with our panelists. And I'm going to start with a lady amongst the men. It is said, not for nothing, it's said ladies first. So our first panelist is Her Honor Judge Sedinam Awo Kwadam Mrs. I would like to tell you for this very program, the International Criminal Law and Justice Program, Cohort 2 at the GIMPA Law School. Her personal belief is that justice transcends borders and the pursuit of international criminal law must stand as a testament to humanity's resolve to protect the vulnerable, hold the powerful accountable, and ensure that human rights are not privileges but guarantees for all. Ladies and gentlemen, let us not be stingy with our rounds of applause. So with a resounding round of applause, let us welcome the Honor Judge Sedinam Awo Kwadam of Circuit Court 7, Accra. Welcome to the panel, my lady. It's lovely having you here. My lady. Oh, this is not.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
I'm thrilled to have you here, and I look forward to an enriching conversation with you.
It's a pleasure to join.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, on to our second panelist. He's a big shot. I call him a big shot. His name is Colonel Kofi Obri Yeboah. He's a senior army officer with over 2 decades of service in the Ghana Armed Forces. He's currently the Chief G5 Plans at the Army Headquarters. He has extensive experience in peace support operations in Africa and other parts of the world, including Sierra Leone, Liberia, Cote d'Ivoire, Lebanon, and Israel. Colonel has undertaken all professional military courses commensurate with his rank in Ghana. He holds an MA in International Affairs from the University of Ghana. He also holds an LLB from the University of London, and he was called to the Ghana Bar in 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, with a resounding round of applause, let us welcome Colonel Kofi. Colonel, you're welcome to the panel. It's okay. Thank you for joining the panel. Ladies and gentlemen, a final panelist, the last but certainly not the least. He is Mr. Bernard Ofori Abankwa. He's not only a member of our class, he is an environmental consultant with over a decade working on projects funded by the World Bank and other institutions. He holds a BSc in Environmental Development Studies, oh that's a mouthful, from Central University. He holds an MSc in Environmental Sustainability and Management from Wisconsin University and an LLB from Gimpa. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we know what to do next. Let us welcome him. Mr. Chairman, faculty members, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, these are our panelists for the evening. They are going to lead the discussion. And in as much as they are seasoned, they are well-read, well-informed, at the end of the day, we're all students as well. So if there are shortcomings here and there, kindly bear with us, take it with a grain of salt. And I believe it's time to kickstart the conversation. Again, my lady, I think my bias is reflecting this evening because I'm going to say ladies first. And I think it's only prudent that because of the theme we have, we reflect on the theme and see how best to navigate it. So I would really appreciate it if you could share your reflections on the theme with us. Yes.
Good evening once again. And looking at the theme chosen for this conversation, I would say that it is most apt because it encompasses international criminal justice, then our continent, Africa, and then finally this setting, the academic setting, the intellectual frontier. So it's a combination of our reality that we are on a continent that unfortunately has been plagued with some of the worst atrocities in the history of mankind, and it's been continuous. Africa seems not to get a break, no breather. So in 2025, having this kind of conversation and deciding that we want to not only look back into history, but also look at how currently, looking at the advancement of academia, many more universities are springing up, many more Africans are gaining degrees, masters, doctorates in the field. How does that contribute to practically resolving the problems we have seen that have plagued Africa for all these years, like our chairman said in accepting to chair this program? We must move from just the conversations, come up with practical policies that, contribute positively to the development of international criminal justice. The justice must not only be on paper, it must now be felt by Africans, because what is happening to Africans. by Africans. So if the solution has to come up, definitely, it has to come up from Africa. Yes.
Thank you, my lady. I think you've said a mouthful, and I think we have picked up at least the aspects of the fact that we're interested in academia and we need to know how to relate that to the realities of what's going on in Africa. Hello?
Yes, Mina.
Yes.
You want to have a good one?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much. And a good evening to everybody. Yeah, so reflecting on the theme, what comes to my mind and what I want to highlight is that we woke up quite recently and saw what was happening in Russia. And then we have seen what is happening in Gaza. So surprisingly for those of us in the military sector, we thought a state rising against a state in the fashion that we saw in Russia, or we have seen in Russia, was a thing of the past. We're working towards more of the non-state actors engaging states. So to see a full-fledged combat setting where one state rises against another raises a lot of questions. Then when you transfer it into the legal aspect, a lot of legal concerns are rising. Every day we are hearing of atrocities being committed. If you look at what is happening in Gaza, what is happening in Russia, and it comes to, all boils down to international criminal justice. At the end of the day, which there will be, who is going to be held accountable for all the things that we are seeing? We need mechanisms such as the ICC to deal with some of these matters. We have situations presently where the US has decided to take it up against the ICC because of Middle East, because of Netanyahu, and also because of Putin. And all these raises questions as to whether the world is ready to deal with impunity. So there cannot be a better time to look at the issues of international criminal justice than today. We thought we had moved forward, but situations in the recent past have caused us to take a second look and consider whether we are really making advancement in terms of prosecuting and dealing with international crimes that we consider to be grave globally. So it's very relevant for us as students of international criminal law and international law, or law in general, to look at this aspect of the law to see how we can advance these frontiers. And then our education should not only be static, it should reflect these changing trends in this area so that we can always be relevant and ready to deal with situations that come across. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. Mr. Bankwa, I would like to know your take on that.
Okay, thank you. Good evening to everyone. For me, I was started from the point of recent happenings in Congo. We all know Congo is one of the richest countries in terms of mineral deposits, and a lot of things is happening there. If you also look at Russia, usually when we look at wars and atrocities, we forget that most of the things that happen also happens to the environment, which ultimately also affects human settlement over the period. So in holding people accountable or perpetrators accountable, I am hoping that the ecocide policy that the ICC is developing will not just be a policy document, but the time will come where the Assembly of State Parties will consider it and actually add on to the list of crimes under the jurisdiction of the ICC. So I think there is a way forward, and it will take time, but eventually, as my colleague said, we will get there. The day will come, and the day of accountability will come for everybody.
What insightful reflections these are. Kendall, I will come back to you. You mentioned the ICC, and I think that it's prudent we delve into it. When we look back at the past decades, let's say even 2 decades, how has the ICC affected Africa? They're in the system for, or have they undermined justice?
What's your take on it?
Okay, thank you very much. So Africa and the have made a lot of contributions. So the issue of complementarity, for instance, was one of the principles that was championed by African states. And all because at the point we felt the sovereignty was going to be challenged with an establishment or a regime like the ICC. So complementarity was brought in as a compromise arrangement to give us an assurance that it is not a court that is going to take over our national responsibilities. Then if you look at the issues of reparations for victims and also victim participation, it was one of the areas Africa also advanced when it came to establishing the ICC. When you look at the crime against humanity and the involvement of a crime like apartheid, it was something that Africa again championed. So in terms of the preparation, Africa took active part. Then we started with the actual operation of the court. And it's interesting to note, I think about 10 cases so far have been handled by the court relative to Africa. And out of these 10 cases, Africa itself, as in countries in Africa, have referred 5 of the cases to the court. It is only 2 cases that have been referred to the court by the UN Security Council, and the others have been taken on by the prosecutor under the proprio motu facility. So, if you look at the facts, you don't get where the divergence comes. But be that as it may, at a certain stage, particularly when the case of Omar el-Bashir for Sudan was taken up by the ICC, it was actually a referral from the United Nations Security Council. And once that referral was made, it generated some concerns because of he was a seasoned head of state. And also, of course, to be fair to Africa, there was already a peace process underway. And the feeling was that if you decide to take up prosecution of such a key figure in the process, then you are likely to destabilize the peace arrangement. So there were genuine concerns, all right. But the fact is that we had signed on to a treaty, and that treaty allowed the ICC to do what they did. And so that sort of brought the turning point, where now Africa feels that the court is going after African heads of state. But the facts do not really bear it out, as I've indicated. The cases were referred. When it was convenient for us, we referred the cases to the court. But when the courts took up cases that were not in favor of, we complained about it. So that has been a turning point. Africa has decided now to put up a court by itself to look at to have criminal jurisdiction under the Malabo Protocol, which will deal with international crimes. So when you trace our history and you trace our experience has been mixed. There were times that we were very comfortable with the arrangements, and then there was a turning point. But even with the turning point, we cannot say that Africa is really looking at getting out of the ICC, because the AU, following the Omar el-Bashir arrest warrant, passed a resolution for mass withdrawal from the ICC. And to date, no African state has withdrawn. Again, the Malabo Protocol, which is to establish or to give criminal jurisdiction to the African Court of Human and People's Rights, the Court of Justice and Human and People's Rights, has not been ratified by African states since 2014. So then, as much as the optics indicate that we are unhappy with the ICC, the facts on the ground do not bear the point that Africa is really looking out to leaving the ICC. So in terms of our experience, I believe that we still have a very good relationship with the ICC. And going forward, I want to believe that Africa will still continue to be with the ICC and be part of it. Thank you.
Okay, so Kenel, is it the case that, in your opinion, have these experiences advanced justice for us as a continent, or would you say has undermined what we know justice to be?
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm sure there cannot be a doubt that the operations of the International Criminal Court has really served as well. As mentioned earlier by my lady, Africa has been the grounds for most of the atrocious conflicts in the world. So we look at the Second Congo War, for instance, and then you realize that it took about 5 million lives. And from assessments in terms of number of people killed and the duration of the war, it is considered to be one of the most atrocious wars in post the Cold War. If we even look at the Rwandan genocide, within a matter of 100 days, 800,000 people were killed. All these arrangements, at the end of it, justice was delivered through an international mechanism. So when you look at the Rwandans, which there was the International Criminal Tribunal for the Rwanda, which was international mechanism. And with the establishment of the ICC, the belligerents and the participants of the Second Congo War have been taken on at the ICC. Some have been convicted. So in terms of delivering criminal justice, international criminal justice, I think Africa has been a beneficiary. Because we can only understand it when we look at the rivers. If these courts were not in existence, who was really going to take on these perpetrators? And so, whichever way you look at it, and as I indicated, 5 referrals by African states where they felt that they were unable to handle such cases. And so, without the ICC, those cases would have been left unattended, and so people wouldn't have secure justice. And because of the victim participation and reparations arrangement that is integral to the ICC statutes, it has helped also not for persons to only, perpetrators to only be convicted and dealt with, but it has also helped the victims who suffered out of these conflict situations to also get some respite or some closure to whatever unfortunate situations happen. So overall, I think Africa cannot in any way say it has not benefited from the ICC, and going forward until we are able to strengthen our mechanisms, I believe we'll still rely on the ICC to deal with some of these fallouts from conflict. Thank you.
So then certainly there's a place for the ICC in the continent. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Mr. Abankwa, I was just thinking of what he said, and I was thinking, you have states like South Africa, you have Rwanda, you even have the AU pushing for reforms, and some would say ultimately it's some pushback regarding.
So there's no presidential immunity. I mean, in terms of the normal customary international law, you have immunity for presidents, diplomatic immunities and all that. But under the room statute, there's nothing like that. So from my standpoint of view, I think for them it was a threat because immunity presents to them some sort of shield against their wrongful actions. And so the pushback, I mean, in terms of motive, I don't think is the best because they want us to gloss over their mistakes, whether intentional or unintentional. And then it's also interesting that, as my colleague said, when the AU had a resolution for mass withdrawal, what I know on record is Burundi as of 2017. I know South Africa has also submitted their instrument to withdraw. I know Rwanda has done the same thing. But if you look at it in total, it does not negate the legitimacy of the ICC. Neither would it, as it were, give somebody a shield against any heinous crime under the jurisdiction of the ICC. So for me, I think that the pushback was unnecessary. Then again, but if you also consider it in terms of in a political context, I think our leaders probably were learning from the USA. Because, I mean, historically, if you look at 2000, where Clinton's era oversaw the signing of the ICC, and then in 2002, he didn't ratify until US signs it, until the president signs it, becomes law. And US is not a dualist state, it's a money state. Clinton didn't sign it, Bush didn't sign it. And then in 2002, Bush brought in a law that was to penalize the ICC because there was some invasion in Iraq and other places. And then unfortunately too, when Trump came in, there was a bit of silence from US and ICC. When Trump came in, 2016, 2017, ICC, the prosecutor wanted to investigate activities of the US and CIA and also Taliban and then I think the Afghan forces. Trump didn't like it because they didn't want issues to come out, even though they were glaring and serious evidence. In fact, after sanctioning the ICC and its personnel, the prosecutor still went ahead. Unfortunately, let's try and balance it. If somebody can do it, let me also try if it works for me. So that's, but I think.
I believe I heard at some point when Mr. Bankwan mentioned scholarship, writing, academia. How does the academic community fit into this conversation, into this dispensation of international criminal justice?
Well, we must admit that the conversations had publicly through publications, articles, papers, and some of the jurists have contributed to the perceptions about accountability, international criminal justice, and especially the ICC. So for example, the conversation had by my colleagues just now about the perception with regards to the ICC and Africa, a lot of it has been propelled by intellectual writings, mostly by Africans, on how the ICC has unfairly, according to them, targeted African leaders. So the conversations had through intellectual work, by all means, have had an effect on the overall perception. But I wouldn't say that it is the real source of the perception. Most of the perception is founded on political, international relations, and personal reasons of African leaders. You know, the most heinous crimes are not committed by people with little power. They are committed by people with great power, and these are leaders. Now, unfortunately, when they were getting together to put the Rome Statute together, it must have, skipped them that Article 27 of the Rome Statute was fashioned in a way that would rob them of what they so cherish. So at the point in time where referrals were being made towards people who were not leaders in the real sense, African leaders didn't have a problem with it. African writers, the intellectual frontier, they didn't have a problem with it because these characters were seen as characters who were undermining democracy, etc. Now, as soon as, like my colleague said, al-Bashir was a subject or had become a subject of the processes of the ICC, then it came home. It dawned on African leaders that actually the Rome Statute, accountability, it applies to them as well. And that, I think, is what fueled the writing, the intellectual discourse. So I would say that the intellectual discourse has been skewed because of the leaders, the African leaders' relationship with the ICC. So the more they speak about it, they call for AU conference, state assembly meetings, and world leaders always have access to the press. The more they mention it, the more academia has to, write on it, explore all the aspects of what they are saying. And the more we speak about it, the more the perception is being created. So I think they led the conversation, even though I must admit it was a knee-jerk reaction on their part. Because of al-Bashir, Uhuru Kenyatta, it was a knee-jerk reaction. So the intellectual frontier so far has been mostly guided by geopolitics. However, we must move from that. The facts on the ground do not necessarily support the anxiety that African leaders have. If you look at how ICC has operated, yes, we know that the UNSC,
isn't it? Yes. In Mozambique, there are problems. The stories in Guinea have been muted a bit. But in all these instances, you would ask, who needs justice? In the Gambia, which is just coming out of 22 years of Jammeh and then a post-Jammeh period, who really needs justice? Is anybody talking to the victims? What is justice? And the African continent is also replete with examples. The same Rwanda, Kachacha, Bashingatai, and Burundi. We all sit around the table and we forgive. Is that not justice? How forgiving is the ICC? Right. In Ghana, on average, if people have a problem, do they go to the DC's office or the chief's palace? So I would contest, much as I teach it, that what may be international justice may not exist. Perhaps the future is national systems. What we know as Africans, and yes, the name was given to us by Scipio Africanus, the Roman general, who said, Delenda est Carthago, Carthage must be destroyed, isn't it? If Hannibal had not crossed the Alps with his elephants, Africa may have conquered Rome. But when we saw the weakness in Hannibal's war strategy, that's when we lost. It is said that we were called, or are still called, Al-Kebulan. That's the name of Africa before it was Africa. Perhaps we should go back to what existed in Al-Kebulan. And maybe that is what we are seeing in the attitude of our leaders. Right? So if you ask me, what themes can we consider in this discourse? Maybe African intellectuals like you and I should stop writing the script found in some of the Western universities and the perceptions of justice. But think about our own. How well will we grow customary law and project it beyond our borders to, I would say, a regional outlook? Professor Makawa Mutua says that you can draw Africa actually into 7 countries if you redraw the maps from the Berlin Conference. So perhaps we're a bit more united than we think. So explore the themes of customary law, explore the themes of restorative justice, that perhaps we are more forgiving than we are retributive and punitive. Right, thank you, Your Honor. Perhaps explore the themes of really why the African Union's aversion. Because since Kwame Nkrumah and Nnamdi Azikiwe and Julius Nyerere and Haile Selassie Rastafari, we have been fighting for that African identity. Right? Perhaps we should think about those. If it won't happen, don't be too hard on yourself. We are not even 100 years old as nations. Ghana is only 68.
And on that note, I believe it's prudent that we invite the audience. If you have questions, you have comments, I believe our panelists are more than equipped to at least share their reflections. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for putting this together and also inviting us to be a part of this conversation. My name is Barry. I'm a member of the second year LLB group, Group B. I'd like to agree with Mr. Chairman that how Africa in itself can really benefit from this is a question of identity, in the sense that we are a unique group of people. We have our own culture, we have our own customs. And so it looks like the ICC sits at the top, and then it looks down on Africa and then more or less extends olive branches. That, oh, let's consider them, oh, let's do this for them, let's do this for them. But then we also have the African Court on Human Justice. And I really believe that the identity can really be stifled by the judiciary in this sense. Because the heads of states are, like my lady said, are absolving themselves because they are the ones who really commit these heinous crimes. And so it's my opinion that the judiciary in itself has to stand up and then take up the arms to ensure that at the end of the day we are forging an identity for ourselves. In the sense that let us strengthen the African Court of Human Justice. We have bodies like the AU on there. Let us ensure that the nations are compliant, such that at the end of the day, every court is submitting to the African Court of Human Justice. And then we can take the helms ourselves and then deal with our issues. Because if we leave it to the heads of states, if we leave it to the ICC, it takes a while. It takes a while. And so as we come up as students and as intellectuals too, I believe our writings should also be skewed towards creating the African identity, more or less like the sort of revolution the chairman is also advocating. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Madam Moderator, if I can just, top up what he said with the convener for this roundtable discussion, the ACICJ, the African Center for International Criminal Justice. It's the pace setter of such centers in Africa, right here on Gimpa campus, Gimpa Law School. So in line with what you were saying about formulating a solution that is centered on our Africanness, our African identity, the center is well placed, and that is why academia joined the conversation when it comes to if the center is well equipped with the human resource, and that's you and I, to come up with policies that can be implemented in our domestic setting. We have all the court structures in Ghana. We've got right from the Supreme Court down to community-based court, district court. There's nothing stopping us from transmitting the knowledge being shared here at the ACICJ, Gimpa Law School, and we are hoping that Gimpa being the pace setter, other universities will pick up and expand their intellectual frontier when it comes to international criminal law and justice. We would come up with workable solutions which are Afrocentric, African-centered. Then we submit those policy recommendations to the people at the helm of affairs. If we start right from our domestic court, of course, it will transmit to ECOWAS, and then even from ECOWAS to AU. Before we know it, the ICC may not necessarily be useful for us because we've tailored the solution to fit our problem right from Accra, right from Kumasi to ECOWAS. Maybe we should look at solving the problem from the academia and moving into policy. So academia and policy, we have to bridge the gap. So the ACICJ, for example, can help in bridging the gap between academia and policy directors, policy makers, practical solutions with respect to the judicial system, prosecution. We have the Attorney General system, right? So if we are able to utilize the knowledge being shared here properly, I think that will affect our system to the point of affecting the AU, ECOWAS, then AU, and then who would need the ICT? Right.
Okay, please, I want to pick your opinions on when it comes to the international criminal justice, the justice in itself that we are talking about. From whose perspective are we supposed to see the justice? Is it from the ICC's perspective, or from the victim's perspective, or from the accused person or the suspect's perspective? Which of these three are we supposed to look at the justice from? Thank you. Okay, thank you for that question. I think, let's see it from this angle. Before the ICC even comes in for any situation or country or crime, there's an opportunity for the states or the country to actually investigate and handle that situation or crime. So the ICC comes in when there are certain factors where there's the failure of the state to act, or there's an unwillingness of the state to act. And as my colleague said earlier, with the African situation, 5 of those cases were referred by African countries. So the question is, what prevented the leaders within the African countries from handling those situations? They have their own reasons. But if you're asking from whose perspective in terms of the justice, the Rome Statute gives the state the opportunity to handle the situation. So if you are looking at the homegrown solutions for African states, we have vast opportunity to do it. But as Mr. Chairman said, we are young. I share that view. And I mean, of course, you can't compare yourself to the USA, which is over 250 years. You can't compare yourself to China, which is over thousands of years. So I agree. But if we can look at our internal structures, our internal situations, if we can look at it and work on it. One thing I'll also want to draw your attention to, even locally as Ghana, we know we have our customary laws, which are not general, but they are specific to communities. And then in my research, one of the things that the US did, in terms of not, as it were, bowing to the ICC, was what they call the Article 98, I think Article 98 something. And what they did was, after sanctioning the ICC, they signed Article 98 treaties or agreements with a lot of states, saying that when the ICC wants anybody who is our national or our ally, don't cooperate. They're going to give you military assistance. They're going to give you support. So, and you see, before the US comes out with a policy, Harvard probably would have done a series of research into it. All their Ivy League schools would have done a series of research into it. So when they are coming up with a policy in terms of agreement or bilateral agreement and all those things, there's a policy rationale based on academic research. And that is what we need to do, and we need to really look at as African companies and even as an institution. So from whose perspective, depends on how we want to structure it. Of course, you know there are various forms of punishment. So if our internal law is saying the punishment or the justice must be punitive, if it has to be restorative, if it has to be mediative or whatever it is, it still goes down to us. So the ICC just doesn't come in summary. We have the opportunity to work everything out by ourselves, looking at our unique situation so that we can achieve what we think will help us without calling somebody from outside to come and solve our problems for us. Thank you.
Thank you for that.